PrimeFish project that we are holding today. And thank you very much for sharing this half an hour with us. PrimeFish is a research project focused on strengthening the competitiveness of the fisheries and aquaculture sectors in Europe. And we've been working since 2015 on the collection of data, the development of methods, and analysis of the seafood value chain. Today, we are taking a glance at one of the 6 main features of the tool that we are developing and also at the research that has enabled this tool to work. As this webinar, we are also holding another series of webinars during these months. On the month of October, we will be mainly focused on the tools that we are developing, whereas on November, we will change to the approach at market level. So we'll be holding seminars focused on the markets of Spain, Italy, Germany, France, and the United Kingdom at the languages of these markets. And at the end, we will hold one seminar focused on the topic of sustainability and the results of PrimeFish related to sustainability. Questions and answers. Of course, we will have a session, a slot on this webinar focused on questions and answers, and this will be at the end of the webinar. So please, if you have questions, send us to us on the chat, on the window chat that you have on the right of your screen, and we will deal with them at the end of the webinar. Now I will give the floor to Brigitte Hagen from University of Pavia, which is the main author of the research that we are dealing with today. And after that, we have a moment to share with George, that has been the main developer of the tool. So I give the floor to Brigitte. Welcome.
Hello, welcome also from my side. I am Birgit Hagen from the University of Pavia. I'm here an assistant professor of international entrepreneurship and marketing, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to PrimeFish and its customer segmentation. So I have uploaded the presentation. I hope everybody can see. Let me jump immediately into the topic. And this is the economic landscape as of today, which is a very competitive one with multiplying offerings and multiplying customer expectations. And in this economic environment, of course, it becomes ever more difficult to stand out, to differentiate, to innovate, and to successfully meet customer expectations. So at the basis of satisfying customer expectation, of course, stands knowledge of customers and their wants and their needs and their behavior. And here, market segmentation plays a key role because it helps understand what customer wants. Through profiling customer segments, the company can compare with its actual or future offering and define target customers and segments where it has the highest probability of satisfying expectations. And in our case of PrimeFish, of course, it may help also to identify trends because we have 5 markets under study. So you may know that we did customer segmentations in Germany, in Italy, in Spain, in the UK and France. And so, of course, as in every market environment, you have lead and lag markets and you have lead and lag segments, and these may help identify trends, future trends. The key role of market segmentation is not just related to understanding consumers, their profiles, expectations, and so on. It helps also assess the various opportunities that come with the various segments. It helps assess potential or attractiveness because you will have an indication of the various segment sizes And of course, this gets very close to market size overall. It also helps assess accessibility, and this is very much in the hands of the single companies, because again, they can compare what they have on offer with the behavior and expectation of the consumers. Overall, market segmentation then gives valuable advice for company strategy, not just in terms of differentiation, but very concretely in terms of adapting or creating better or new offerings that come very close to the various consumer expectations in the segment. So, in very simple terms, because I suppose not all of you are familiar with market segmentation, what it does, and this is extremely simple terms, it breaks down markets or consumers. It groups them into groups that are characterized by similar behavior, expectations, and other traits. So if you look at this slide, so you would see the person with the green circle, and they are, let's say, united by, let's say, age, which is an elderly category, and by gender, which includes both female and male. If you look instead at those persons with the pink circle, you would say, well, here again, we have an age criterion, in this case, young. We have just one gender, which is female, but you can see in more detail that these young women are passionate about caps, right? And you could even add more detail and say, well, two of them, a smaller segment here, is passionate about white caps. And this depends on the criteria you choose to profile your segments and the depth, the number of criteria you use to describe your segments. But this was just for illustrative purposes. So what we did was exactly this. We started with very detailed and very in-depth consumer segmentations. So individual level, I will show you in a second more in detail the criteria we used, but we went along the very traditional categories of socio-demographic, geographic, behavioral benefit, and psychographic segmentation criteria. And on the basis of this consumer data, we applied latent class analysis. This is a state-of-the-art statistical technique, which is very frequently used for segmentation purposes. And so, overall, the various consumers in the various markets, we built up our consumer segments. Now, what I said before, the firm can compare its offering, its product, and see which segment may be the best target, which group of consumers may be the best fit with what the firm has on offer. And the hypothesis, and not only the hypothesis, of course, empirical evidence tells us that if I have a very good match, a very good fit, and I am able to meet or to get very close to my customer's expectation and behavior, then of course my probability of success will be much higher. So here in a bit more detail how we proceeded in this project. We constructed the segmentation through latent class analysis, I mentioned this before, and we used the domain-specific segmentation basis. So to illustrate what this means, let me go to the next slide. So I mentioned before that we used very traditional categories, and here you would see some more criteria in more detail. So if it comes to social demographics, use age, gender, family characteristics, and so on and so forth, traditional segmentation criteria. The domain-specific segmentation basis says, well, you can get closer to industry-relevant criteria. And here we use the domain-specific segmentation basis that is like food and beverage, of course. And when available, or when we thought it was appropriate, used fish-specific criteria too. So let me take this family, right? Usually you ask, what is your family size? How many persons live in your household? Also, what is their age? Now we know in terms of fish consumption, the presence of children below 12 years is crucial and is impacting the family consumption. So we asked in our questionnaire, of course, about the presence of children below 12 years and whether those children were eating fish. So this would be the example of the domain-specific segmentation base. What you see here too, for example, that we looked into cooking habits and so on and so forth. So here you see just some very few examples of those criteria we used, because I mentioned before we have a very detailed list of criteria which is, of course, yielding a very rich description of the consumers we have in the various segments. We have the description of consumers according to representative samples. So we surveyed 800 respondents in the 5 countries, and we did an online survey in June-July last year. So very updated data. Now, the evaluation of segments, we will give the companies which are interested some idea of segment size. I mentioned that. Of segment trend, because we were asking also past and future fish consumption and so on and so forth. But the definite evaluation, the final evaluation of whether the segment is attractive to the firm is in the hands of the firm, because of course it must match product offering and capabilities and resources it has at hand with the requirements, expectations, and behaviors of the various segments. Now, let me go to the results. And here you see the 25 segments we have identified overall across the 5 countries. In order to help you orient in this, this table, I have put, for example, the light blue, the blue segments, and this would stand for segments and consumers, because segments is consumer. For consumers, you find across all the countries under study. And one example of such a segment, a transnational segment, would be the cooking artist. So we find cooking artists in all our 5 European countries. We have on one hand side the cooking artist, and on the other side we have also a consumer segment we call the indifferent consumers that are too present in all the countries we have studied. Then we would have some segments that are present in 2 or more countries, such as the healthy and environmentally conscious consumers who are to be found in Italy or in Germany. And you have segments that are present only in one country, that are really idiosyncratic to just one nation. This would be, for example, the healthy convenience consumer or the self-efficacious local ecologists that we have found only in the UK. I will show you now a bit more in detail how such segment profiles, how such consumer profiles look like. But again, this is just illustrative because we have a lot of more variables that you could use to understand your customers better. So here, let me start with the cooking artist, the master chef-like consumer we find in the market. And you see here some of the characterizing traits. So this is a consumer who likes to cook, who is creative, who experiments with different species formats, who likes versatility of fish, who is very passionate about cooking. It is a consumer who, without any doubt, values taste over nutrition and values very much the sensory aspects of the fish. So this is an overall profile which characterizes the consumer segments in the market. And this is common to all those consumers. What is slightly different would be the socio-demographic profile. So while it is in Germany and the UK a small and young family, it is definitely more the millennial couple in Spain and in France. So very young people who are passionate cooks. And they would not have family with them. What you also see here is the segment size. So this segment size is around 12 or 10% in Germany or France, respectively. It's slightly smaller in the UK and in Spain. The segment is not growing in none of the countries we have invested. You would get also information of where your target segment purchases the fish and where they get information from. And you have an idea of their average monthly expenditure on fish. As you see here, the cooking artists, and we would say in line of what we had expected, is high in its expenditure on fish. In fact, it is across all the segments we found one of those which spends most or much on fish. And again, in line with what we would have expected, these consumers use and cook and consume a broad variety of species and formats, and they go for exotic species. So they use also those species which would not be the traditional country species. Now, that would be the cooking artist. So then you would see a facet of a cooking artist of another segment, which I have put here. It's the healthy cooking artist, right? So you could find this segment, you find it in Italy and in Germany only. And this is a cooking artist. But while the true cooking artist goes definitely for taste-related preferences, our healthy cooking artist does not value taste over nutritional health, but puts more focus and more value on health-related claims or ideas of fish. Now, let me go from the transnational segments, so those that unite and cut across all the countries, to some very specific consumer segments, as they display in the UK, for example. For time reasons, I will show you only Amanda, whom we have called the healthy convenience consumer Amanda. So you see, it's an active woman beyond the 50s. She lives with her partner predominantly in the countryside, in urban centers, is characterized by medium-high education, an expenditure, you saw that before already, of around £60 per month. She prefers sea bream, sea bass with medium-high consumption frequency, and does her shopping in the supermarket. The preferences that characterize this segment would be health-related, everything which is health-related, natural, health-related to digestion. She values traceability, environmental consciousness, and of course, and this is clear with convenience, she values highly easy or ready-to-cook solutions and versatility with the products she goes for. Her preference would be for fresh and wild fish, and she relies on the label on the supermarket when it comes to information. This is a large portion of the UK market, and this is a growing segment. Now, Jorge, my colleague, will show you in a minute he will run you through the tool and will show you how the match between a company offer and a segment works. And here I just wanted to show you very quickly What the firm could do once the match has been done, this means how to interpret the results and how to act upon results. So let me take again Amanda, and you remember she's above 54, countryside, buys in the supermarket. You remember her profile. So now firm A is a firm which is active in the UK market, has salmon on offer, offers fillet here with potatoes, so it is an easy or ready to cook offer, which would come very close to what Amanda is looking for. They communicate on convenience, on natural products, on sustainable offers, on environment, traceability, and label. And put together, you will see that a priori, this is a good match, right? So firm A could reasonably well satisfy Amanda's expectations. What is missing, however, are the health claims. Remember that Amanda is looking for convenience, but she's also looking for health. And this goes beyond natural products, right? So what the firm should do to get closer to Amanda is they could add health claims if they wished. To come closer to Amanda's information behavior, they could consider in-store promotion because Amanda indicates that she goes for label. This is already present in the offering, but she goes for information also in the supermarket. So in-store promotion could be a good additional way to promote. What I would also suggest is the company is already communicating on environment, but Amanda understands environment in the broad sense, right? So environmental health, and this packaging would be at odds in terms of environmentally friendly packaging, right? So in order to satisfy also Amanda's request for an environmentally friendly solutions, the company could also consider, of course, to change the packaging. If they did, they would definitely come closer to Amanda, and being very close to Amanda's expectations, meeting her expectations and behavior, of course, would lead in a second step to being purchased by Amanda. So this would be from my side everything. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Brigitte. Now we give the floor to George, who will show us a little bit how the PrimeFish tool works.
Thank you very much, Mercedes. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon for the ones who are already in the afternoon. My name is George. I'm developer at Synthesa, responsible for the PrimeFish project, and I'll be demonstrating the tool for you in a moment as soon as my screen starts sharing. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Fantastic. So I'm going to quickly start by introducing the DSS for those who don't know the platform or are not aware. I perceive that some of you have already registered at the platform, and that's fantastic. Please feel free to look around and use as much as you want and provide us with feedback. We're still going through a last round of improvements. This is a prototype version, of course. There are some little details that need still adjusting, but it represents very well the research done by Birgit and the team at Bavia. So the DSS is comprised of mainly two containers. This first one that you guys are seeing in my screen is the container for the DSS tools. And you also have a link to the DSF wiki at the top, where you can access the wiki with support information. The wiki is still missing some information. We're still finishing the upload of data, so you might find it's a little bit incomplete, but hopefully by the next few months we'll be improving on that. For the DSS, it's easy to register. If you don't have an account, you can click register here at the top. You will be redirected to a login formulary, which you can complete and register. As it's a prototype and we are still in the testing phase, there are no confirmations needed. So as soon as you enter your details and an email address and register, you should be able to log in into the tool and use it without any problem. So I'm going to go ahead and log in with my credentials. And once you log in, you are redirected to the homepage of the tool, where you have the latest tweets by the project and by partners of the project, and a quick link to the wiki itself and to the website. One thing to note is once you register and log in into the tool, after you log in, if you click to go to the wiki, you will perceive that the wiki itself is already logged in into your user, your recently registered user. So basically the login is connected between both platforms. So once you register and log in at the DSS, you should be registered and logged in into the wiki as well. The wiki supports mostly as a tool for providing information on the DSS project. So we have different links to different parts of the wiki providing some more information, which is not different for the product success check tool. So to access the tool, you can either go through the quick access link and click the PSC button, or choose the menu on the top as well and go to the tool. At the home page of the tool, we have a quick introduction, a quick description of what the tool does. I'm not going to go over there because that's already explained by Birgit, but you can see that we have a link here that redirects you to the wiki, to the product success check page, where you're going to have some explanation and some information about how the tool works and what it's supposed to do. It is important to note as well that we have another link here, which will redirect the user to that same page, but to a different location, where you have a description of all the different segments by country, and a little description about each of them, following what Birgit just described to us. So the product success check tool works by mapping all the inputs necessary according to described by the research and Birgit, and uses this information and passes this information to the algorithm that was created by the University of Pavia, and performs the regression and calculates which is the best matching consumer profile, which will be displayed in the results page. So we have the first part of the input, and this will ask you like information that we need to run, that it's necessary, which is the target country. I'm going to choose Italy for the first example, and sea bass as a species. I will also select wild as a product source, and a low price range, and a medium low species consumption. I'm gonna quickly, after you chose this input attributes, you can already click perform the product success check, and all the other choices should be auto selected for you. And you're gonna see here that my first result is the indifferent profile that Birgit mentioned that is present in all segments. I'm gonna quickly return, and I'm going to play around a little bit with the other marketing attributes. And you're going to see that once I start filling these up, the results should start adjusting based on more information. So these other marketing attributes describe different characteristics of the product: novelty, discount, preparation, if the product is organic or not, if it's from EU provenance, if it can be cooked in many ways, and so on and so forth. So you have 16 different characteristics that you can choose from, and with some different options as answers. Once you're done, you can also select in this part of the input a product presentation of your preference. So it is highlighted, but this is just to highlight the results in the results page, which will have, and I'll show you in a second, a graph showing the format preference for presentation of the products by frequency. So we can see which formats have a higher preference frequency as well. And I'm going to select a couple of here, so they are highlighted in the results. So you can see that now I already have a different consumer profile, which is self-efficacious pragmatic. And you're going to have the different information about this profile, like the segment size, the trends, their general fish consumption, their average monthly expenditure, and all the other different characteristics that Birgit mentioned. Following this, we have a quick class description, which is going to basically be a text about or talking about the general characteristics of this particular class, and followed then by the consumer value add attributes. So for this class, which attributes are valued, and they're marked in green, gray, or yellow as being important, indifferent, or unimportant. We can see that we have all the important valued attributes for that class here. So it's a class that values nutrients and health and texture and environmentally friendly products, natural, and so on and so forth. And of course, in the last, we have, as I mentioned, the format preference frequency percentage graph. And here it displays basically the preference by different formats. And you can see that the ones that I selected in the input page are highlighted and they have a red border. But here you can quickly see what is the percentage frequency of choice for those different presentation formats that we have displayed on the table. I'm going to quickly go back and I'm going to try to adjust my choices here. So I have a different profile for Italy as well. Let me see if this is going to change. Oh, yes. So you can see that by changing a couple of attributes, I changed organic to no and a couple of other choices to no, like environmentally friendly. And we can see that we have here the class that Birgit was mentioned, which was the self-efficacious cooking artist. And the cooking artist is a class that is present across the different countries. I'm going to also very quickly demonstrate. This is how the tool works. I'm going to quickly demonstrate now some choices for the UK. I want to see if I can reproduce the class that is specific for the UK. So I'm going to select UK, herring, wild, low price, and medium low species consumption. Let me reset my choices here. And I'm going to select a couple of different things like traditional preparation, organic. I have a cheat sheet that you guys cannot see here on my sites for the choices. EU origin, strong branded, it saves preparation time, it is it has environmentally friendly packing, and it's nutritional, and it has a new recipe, and we use promotions and offers, standard calories option, and I think this should be enough. Let me see. No, that's a self-branded convenience. I apologize for that. I think I probably took note of some different information. Certified. Oh, yes. Yes, so with those results, you can see that here held the healthy convenience membership for the class, which is particular to the UK. The results, of course, will be the same way. We can see that we have one in different value attribute. It comes to a different color, but you also have the same idea, the characteristics for the trends, the class description, the valued attributes, and also the format frequency preference for this class. So this is the product success tool. It's very simple to use. I hope I managed to describe this in detail with you guys, and I'll pass it back to Mercedes and make myself available also if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, George. It's been a wonderful explanation and very, very illustrated. So the time for questions and answer is open. If you want to share your doubts, I might start by asking Brigitte and George. So for small companies, how could you advise to use or to base a marketing strategy on the results of the tool? Could you have any special advice for them?
Mercedes,
Well,
sorry, Bridget would like to answer that.
yeah, I can. So usually the small firms do not have very systematic consumer information. So a priori, I would feel it is a valuable tool. And I just would say they should start and see, and maybe also consult the wiki, which gives overviews and general descriptions of all the segments, and then start to check and play around. So a priori, you can use it to test if you have clear ideas whether this really fits or matches segments and segment expectations, but you can also use it for inspiration, let's say, and see what happens and how you should move and design potential of future offerings.
Great, thanks. I don't know if George wants to add anything.
No, I think Bridget explained it very well. And from the example I demonstrated, you can see how visual the tool is. So basically, the user of a small firm can go there and very quickly get some information about their target market and how, they can maybe improve their products by trying to focus on some of the valued attributes of that class or that particular class, or some of the characteristics that class is looking for in products, and of course help them make their products more competitive and have a lot more attention, I would say, in regards to consumers' choice preference.
Thank you very much, George. If any attendant has any question of doubt, please do not hesitate to participate or to write on the window that reads chat window on your right. So we think that for some European markets, not all of the species that the PrimeFish has worked on, that are herring, sea bass, green, salmon, trout, maybe not are relevant. So we were asking ourselves if we could say that if we could have approximative degree to which these results will be available when you have these substitution species. Let's say, for instance, that in Spain we are big consumers of hake. And could we use the results of the tool for cod to have an idea about the hake consumption or trends? What will you say, Brigitte?
Well, in order to have a 100% safe result, of course, it would be recommended that you do the study with the species you're interested in. But of course, if you look at segment descriptions, this gives clear indications also to other species, right? Just take the cooking artist I was mentioning. They are using literally all the species we had under investigation, and they are prone to experimentation, to use new things, and so on and so forth. So most probably the cooking artist is an interesting segment, and traits and characteristics would be valuable also, let's say, for tuna or whatever species we did not study. So of course, you can get valuable information on consumer behavior and expectations, but you cannot link it one-to-one as you could with our species, because here we have some very species-specific information. But let's say also Amanda, if I take the examples I used, Amanda would use, or her favorite species are sea bream and sea bass. That's what she consumes most, medium high frequency. Still, the salmon firm you saw also in the example would be a very good fit, right? So it is a fresh fish without bones, and would perfectly fit her profile, right? It is good in health attributes. So why shouldn't another species we did not study not fit with Amanda's profile?
And it's important to note as well, just in addition to what Birgit said, that the tool is a prototype. So the species and the data that we have was limited to the research. But once the tool starts growing, we can definitely add more species and collect more data, and depending, of course, on the necessity and the demand for different markets. This could also be added in the same structure once the research is done as well.
Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful webinar. I feel like there are no more questions from the participants. We are at 15 minutes over the time. So if you will receive all participants a follow-up email with a copy in PDF of the presentation and links to the tool. If you had any other questions, do not hesitate to send us to us. We will continue next week on Thursday with a webinar on the tool focused on the trend of prices, and we would like to remind you that the PrimeFish project will finish next year on 2019, and we will have a final meeting on Vigo at the end of January. So please keep that in mind. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, everybody. I make myself available as well for any questions you might have about it too.
Same here. Thank you for attending.